All right, so the man said to leave the stone wall, uh, Porky's place. Uh, Louis was still scratching his head when Tim McGrath wandered over. "What did I tell you about folks that read books too much?" Tim demanded. "Makes 'em queer, that's what it does. Why, here's these people, as nice, pleasant-spoken folk as you could want, but odd. Only yesterday I was telling them that they have to get rid of these here moles. Said I'd bring up a couple of my traps and set 'em, and she says quick, just like she says to you, 'Nope, no traps.' So I says I'd got some good poison I could put out, and he says, 'No, no poison.' Well, how in thunder then,' I says, 'can I make you halfway decent lawn with them there moles rooting around in it?' And what do you suppose he says to that? 'Oh, just keep a rolling it down,' he says. 'Just keep rolling it, and they'll get discouraged.' Discouraged, mind you," Tim snorted. "Says he read it in a book. And then only this morning," he went on, "I was telling them that they ought to build a fence around that garden. 'Why, you can't never have no garden here,' I says, 'without you have a fence built around it. This here hill is full of animals. Rabbits, groundhogs, raccoons, deer, pheasants, skunks, and all.' And what do you suppose she says to that?" "I couldn't imagine," said Louis. "You couldn't," said Tim. "We like 'em," she says. "They're so beautiful," she says. "Beautiful, mind you. And they must be hungry, too," says she. "You're right, ma'am," I says. "They're hungry, all right, as you'll learn to your sorrow, when them vegetables come up." And then he chips in, the man. "Oh, I guess we'll get 'em along all right with 'em," he says. "I think there'll be enough for all of us, mind you. That's why we planned the garden so big," he says. Tim shook his head sadly. "Seems a shame. Nice folk, too. Pleasant spoken and all, but odd. Nuts, some might say. Comes of reading books too much. I guess that's the way it is. Grandpa had the right of it. Reading rots the mind, he used to say." Louis picked up his hammer and split a stone neatly. "Nice folks, though," he said. "Nice folks." Willie Field Mouse was sent to observe the new folks each evening, not in any spirit of impertinent prying, of course, but naturally the little animals were interested in knowing what things were being planned for the hill, for after all it was their hill. So here's the little mouse, Willie, Willie the Field Mouse, looking in the window and listening to what the folks are saying. There was a rainwater barrel near the living room window, and by climbing to the top of this, Willie was able to jump to the windowsill. And although the evenings were still cool and a fire crackled on the hearth, the window was usually opened slightly. Seated in a dark shadow on the sill, he could safely observe the folks and listen to their garden plans. Tonight, surrounded by a sea of catalogues, they had been making out their lists of seeds and plants. Willie had tried very hard to remember them all, and was now making his report. Seated outside the rabbit burrow, Mother, Father, Uncle Arnaldus, Phuey, Porky, and several others all listened intently. "There's radishes," Willie recited, ticking them off on his claws. "Carrots, peas, beans, Snap and Lima. Lettuce, pea vine and lettuce soup," sighed Mother happily. "Corn, spinach, kale, turnips, kohlrabi, broccoli." "Don't hold with them foreign victuals," Uncle Arnaldus grumbled, but was hushed by Mother, and Willie went on. "Celery, rhubarb, potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, cabbage, red and white, cauliflower, raspberries, black and red, strawberries, melons, asparagus, and that's all I can remember. Oh, yes, and cucumbers and squash." A happy buzz of excitement swept over the gathering as Willie finished his report and took a deep breath. The conversation soon merged into a series of arguments as to which family should have which vegetables, but quieted down when Father rose and rapped for attention. "As you well know," he said, "it has always been our custom here on the hill to settle all such questions on dividing night, which falls this year, I believe, on May 26th. On that evening we shall, as usual, gather at the garden and allot to each animal and his family those vegetables to which they are entitled by rule and taste." "Where do I come in?" Uncle Arnaldus demanded. "I'm just a visitin' here." "As our house guest," answered Father, "you will, of course, receive the customary allotment." "Gum dinged right I will," said Uncle Arnaldus. There he is, Uncle Arnaldus. End of chapter 7. 7b.